Good afternoon, everyone. Hang on, I gotta get my glove back on. It's far too cold to be gloveless out here. Remember when we bought this little milk cow for Ann? She's bred, you can see. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you got a baby in there, don't you? Doing much better this winter than last year. If you recall, we bought her from an organic dairy farmer, raw milk dairy farmer type of situation. Sorry, I gotta move my hand. And boy, she struggled. But I've been thinking a lot since I went up to the grazing conference where Steve Kenyon spoke. And I always thought I kind of was strong on the economics of farming and how to make it profitable. But he's at like another level. I immediately came home and redid everything. Probably the most painful part of me redoing it was really giving myself applying a decent wage stress to my economics, instead of just kind of glossing over it. But I've been thinking a lot about where baseline profitability comes from with cattle in particular. I kind of have my sheep figured out, but these cattle are kind of a work in progress for me. And I realized the base of it, the foundation for a cow-calf operation, which is what we're doing, comes from choosing animals that can bring your cost down as low as possible. And so I have a couple of different versions of wrong choices in my herd right now, and I think I kind of have a good direction moving forward. So one example is this dairy cow. If I had a lot of cows like her, she's a pretty animal, isn't she? She did not do well the first winter, and it was milder than this one. And we had to bring her into my garage, actually. I had her tied with a halter to my project truck from the 70s. I have an International truck that Henry and I are working on. And get her out of the wind. She could not stand up to, the variations in temperature last year. This seems like this year she's doing better as she's matured. But you need to have animals that can outwinter in whatever your climate is. Here in Minnesota, like last night, it snapped down to close to minus 25 overnight. You need to have animals that can handle that. Of course, you got to feed them well if they're going to be outside. But you really, in my mind, can't make money if you're putting your animals in a building for a couple of different reasons. One, unless you inherit or buy a farm, and in which case you're buying it into your purchase price anyway. Unless you inherit or buy a farm that has a building, you got to build it. That's a huge expense. A proper size shed is at least $100,000 these days. Let alone like a bank barn like what Doug has. I don't even know what that would cost now. That's full of pigs from another guy nearby. He's using the bottom, and the top's full of square bales for horses that we sell. So you got to build the building, and that gets amortized, and you can depreciate it and spread it out across years to make it more attractive. But it's just an expense that really eats into your bottom line. Two, when they're in a building, you have two additional cost burdens. One is they're going to get sick in a building. I don't care how tough your animals are, they're going to get sick. So you have vet's bills, you have medicine, you have on-site visits, you need a catch pen, you need a head gate so you can, administer stuff to them. It's a mess. Don't do it. Outside, it's healthy. It may feel cold to us, but this is a much healthier setup for them. I haven't used a vet for anybody. Actually, that's not true. When I castrated those bull calves, I gave them a tetanus shot. So, okay, that's easy enough to do when they're that size. By the way, look at the contrast here. I started at the fence line, and I've been feeding a bale that way every day for about a week and a half, or a week maybe, I don't know. And we're just getting a nice thatch layer down here. Which brings us back to the other part. If they're in a shed, you see all this manure, this hay that they kind of wasted? That's in the barn now, which means you're sitting in a skid and you're loading up a manure spreader, and you got to spread it. So that's time, labor, wear and tear on equipment, additional equipment. You don't need a manure spreader if you're doing it this way. And it's just, again, it increases the burden that your operation has to carry to be profitable. Look at this bull I got from George Heller. I've been really looking at him. I think he's going to thicken up. You can kind of see it in his neck. His back leg is a little thin. Again, I'm not an expert on South Pole, but you look at his neck and he's going to be a beaut. Yeah, I'm very happy with him. And he's as tame as you like. So you say, okay, well, I have to be outside. So that means you have to have the animals that can perform in this environment. And so all of these animals here can perform in the cold. And I'll show you another one of my mistakes, though. When I first bought my first farm, and I was just kind of buying a few of everything and trying stuff out to see what I wanted to do and basically playing around, and I wasn't serious, I bought a few Highlands. And this is the last one I have left. She's a Highland Angus cross, but you can see she got the horns. This is another kind of mistake. Even in Minnesota, we'll get 90-degree weather. These animals perform beautifully in the winter. When it's minus 30, they're at their happiest. They're laying out. I remember when we had all the Highlands, my sheep would be in and around their feet. When they were laying down, they'd be piled over the Highlands, getting warm off of them. But in the summer, when it's hot and the sun's baking down on them, this animal doesn't eat. She's hiding in the shade. So her offspring, where is he? I'll find him. He's a steer. I steered him this fall. He's in here next to the South Pole, right there. This animal right here, this bull calf, is not going to gain as well as that British white or as well as this Red Angus steer. Because when it's hot, he's got this massive winter coat all year round. And he's not going to gain as well. And then Highlands too, they take 3 years to finish and not 4. And when you add that additional year of feeding hay to that animal, there goes your profit margin. So I had to get rid of these. She's a pretty good mother and a decent animal. She's a little spooky for me, but she's the first one to go when I start calling out of this for that reason. Calves grow slower, and boy, they have a hard time in the heat. So then I kind of graduated to these guys. This is a Red Angus. I bought a few of them. I think I have 5 Red Angus cows and heifers in here. Great mothers, gain like crazy, do well on grass, no problems birthing, can handle the winter. But look at the size of this thing. There's small red, big red. She's not even the biggest. You can see the big monster over there. Look at the size difference between the bull. That's a bull, by the way, on the left, and that's a cow. Far too big. And so she's actually the reason, her are the reason I'm feeding so much hay right here, because they absolutely walloped this stretch here when we had that wet spring last year. And so we're in repairing mode. So a lot of pluses about the Red Angus, and I have seen their size come down as I've picked the right bulls to put into them. But cows are they're a big cruise ship. They take a while to turn around. And then I bought some British whites from, at the time it was from George Heller's friend up north. I think George ended up buying at least a portion of that herd now. I don't know. These are pretty nice. But they're probably about 1,200 pounds, so they're still a little big for me, but they're not bad. They're durable, good mothers. But I just want to show you something. These calves that came out of the British White Bull were massive. We almost had to pull them. And I know that's a problem, is that it's hard to, they're rare, and they've been bred far too big. So then you're left with the option to cross them basically with, like we had the Red Angus Bull, or we have the South Pole Bull. You can cross them. But then any heifers you get out of them are not going to be as valuable, and that hurts your bottom line. That that significantly impacts your gross revenue. So I ended up doing exactly what I told people. I can't be bothered. Those South Poles, they're whatever. And I made a million excuses, and now I'm just, after a few years of trying a bunch of stuff, this is where I arrived. A good outwintering animal, 1,000 pounds, easy birthing, handles the heat, handles the cold. Perfect. So that's what we're doing. So if you look, this is the kind of animal that I can carry when we have a 30-inch rain month. This is an animal that I can carry when it's bitterly cold or when it's 95 degrees and no shade. It's not the best at everything, but it is good at everything. And it's the right size to protect my ground and my soil and my grass. So that's how how I arrived at what I've been slowly transitioning into. And I've been doing it not for sentimental reasons or aesthetic reasons or anything other than you have to make money to stay in business. And these are the animals that'll make me money. She's short, low to the ground. She does everything I ask her to. Doesn't cost me very much to carry. She works for me and I don't work for her. So that's, I know I've had a few people ask, how do I choose? Well, I landed here because I made every mistake that everyone else does. I have to learn everything the hard way, and I got there in the end. So if you're just getting started out or you're thinking about rebooting your cattle, it doesn't have to be South Pole. I know they're very hot right now, but it has to be small. It has to be durable. It has to be good mothering, and it has to be able to handle the low cost method of farming that is outwintering, rotational grazing. You have to be able to get a steer fat and finished in 2 years to make money on them. It's all of that. So I'm going to keep my Red Angus, and we'll try to continue to breed them down. But we're definitely going to be running them alongside this, and this is kind of the direction I hope to go in the long term. So I'll be doing the same thing probably in a couple of days. Frankly, I don't like making videos when it's this cold out. But we'll be doing it for sheep. How to eyeball what sheep should look like. How to pick the right sheep. The honest answer is if you're buying animals, you need to go to the farm and make sure they're farming how you want to farm. Because if they're not, the animal won't do what you need it to do. All right, it's massively cold out. I still owe these guys water. We had a pipe burst in the barn, so that's being fixed right now. And sun's going down, so I think I'm going to get out of here.